Hi, I'm 2021 Why Not Cam Awards winner Chelsea Poe. I'm here to tell you about my cam studio, Treasure Cams. Treasure Cams is a performer-led webcam studio owned by queer porn star Bella Vendetta. We welcome all 21 plus models who want to earn a paycheck from home as cam performers. We're open to all body types, genders, persuasions, and presentations. You get access to our performer-only forums, monthly team meetings, as well as help with promotion and marketing. For customers, check out treasurecams.com to see all of our models, schedules, and photos. treasurecams.com. Have you ever been looking for an amazing queer cam performer? Well, I got you covered. You should check out TS Cami. Her super hot content is on Chatterbait, Twitter, Xhamster, and Reddit. Support this rad trans femme babe. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special AVN week of the Performers Pod. I'm Chelsea Poe, and I have a special guest here today, my partner, Jay Poe.
Hello, hello. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. You got to see firsthand the craziness of the last 2 years that have led to this like big week for not only myself, but I feel like us as a couple because you've been here the whole time.
Yeah, what a wild ride. This is such an exciting time for you, especially with what is this, your 10th AVN now?
Yes.
Wow, how are you feeling going into this week of craziness?
I mean, it's really crazy because this is my most amount of nominations since we've actually known each other, which is really crazy.
Yeah.
So you're getting like this whole other experience now. Um, yeah, it's really crazy because going in 10 years ago, being from a small town in the Midwest and then, 18 months later being from a college campus to the
Yeah.
AVN Awards was a very big jump.
I mean, what a journey the last 10 years has been.
For
Small
sure.
town Michigan to
Yeah,
going
you've seen
to
it.
college campuses to give talks during Sex Ed Week,
hmm
traveling the world internationally. I look back at our entire relationship and I just think about all the incredible places we've traveled to internationally as a couple on a trip, and then
Yeah.
also getting to use that opportunity to explore all the beautiful cities you'd had screenings in, you had talks
hmm
in, you gave presentations to. It just it's gonna sound weird coming from a non-porn industry person, but for me, it just felt like you're going on any other business trip.
For sure.
And it's been so cool to get to see and meet all your fans, all the people and artists who respect you. And I was so new to this world, and going into all of this, I just remember people coming up to you, some people crying, some people having tears up, some people trying to kiss you or wanting to thank you, to people who are like, you inspired me to get into this, to go into queer porn. And it's like the full gamut of everything. And I just sit back in awe and appreciation and just sometimes being absolutely stunned at how vast your community is and how exciting everyone is
Mhm.
to meet you, to be a part, to be in community with you.
I remember the first time that happened. We were at Costco, like during the pandemic, and there was just this like trans girl like overtly staring at me, and you're like,
Oh my
"What
God.
is that
Yeah.
girl doing?" I'm like,
That
I
first
guess I'm
moment being recognized in person, and we were at the Costco in San Francisco, of all places, waiting in line for the pharmacy, and there was this young woman in front of us who just kept turning back and looking at Chelsea, and I just thought to myself, what the hell is going on? Like, why is this person staring at you like this?
yeah, at first you were like kind of tripped out. You were like, "Are they like trying to fight you or like be
Like, what do they
weird?" Like,
want? Like,
right?
I was about to like confront them and be like, what is your problem? Why do you keep staring at my partner like this? And then we had to like pull aside a bit, and you had to tell me like she's probably a
Yeah, it
fan
took a
that recognized you.
second.
And I was like, oh, duh,
You have to
obviously.
be watching a lot of porn if you can only tell a porn star from like the mask level up, where
I
it's
think it's
only
the
like eyes.
hair.
Yeah,
It's the
true.
iconic
Yeah,
bangs and red hair.
true.
And I guess if someone's seen you naked enough, they've kind of seen everything, right? Well, I wanted to ask you actually, when with Avian coming up,
Yes.
where were you when you found out about your nominations?
So, what's the name of the game you play?
Which one?
The one where we go to the places and you scan.
Oh, round one.
No, like the game on your phone.
Oh, Pikmin?
Yeah, so Jay's been really obsessed with this Pikmin game. So we had some friends be like, "Hey, if you go to this mall, you can get like special Pikmin, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So we went there at like midnight, and because AVN or XBiz, they don't ever announce their awards until like midnight or 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We were there. We were also at a Raising Cane's right before, and I was like stress checking my phone.
Yeah.
But honestly, I didn't really think. I mean, as you know, like the thing I poured all this effort, I feel like, into was the public disgrace team for so long. And that was like this big project for the last 2 years. So I was so sure if anything was gonna get nominated, it was gonna be that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that it was this movie that you were with when I shot literally all of it, and
Mm-hmm.
when we were traveling, Chelsea Submits 3, where, I shot the first scene in Korea, and then um I shot here in Oakland, and then the final thing in Amsterdam with Anna. That was super special. That was like during the Amsterdam Porn Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like very unexpected. And I think it's being a thing that really taught me that I can go kind of anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
find people to work with, and completely just do it on my own and not feel like I need a studio behind me.
Yeah.
It was really, really big.
Yeah. It's so special, especially when we were in a car outside of Stonestown Mall in San Francisco at like 1 a.m. trying to play this game, and we had like two of our closest friends with us who are also non-porn people.
Yeah, yeah, they did
And
our AVN at home with us during the
yeah, during the
pandemic, though.
pandemic, and you were on your phone and just realizing that you were nominated for new nominations that you didn't even know about.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you've been anxiously waiting all day, all week, because it could have been announced at any
it's
time.
so crazy how that is. That's always just like
Yeah.
checking your phone and that anxiety
But it's
moment.
just so special that we were just all together and we were
Mm-hmm.
already celebrating your successes for the new year. And I think that's so important to highlight that a lot of people wait till this very moment at like an award show to feel like, oh, if I win, then I'll
Yeah.
celebrate. But the bigger thing was we were already celebrating. We were really already so happy for you, recognizing all your hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important because it helps you stay focused on what matters most is your experience doing it, how you're contributing to the community. And you're not just driven purely by winning, winning, winning. Of course, it's nice to
That'd be
win.
great though,
Right.
but
It's gonna be really, really great. But it's just also so important to celebrate your wins, no matter how small they are, and make sure you're around people who are uplifting you to
for
celebrate.
sure. I think having this be like the only thing from Amsterdam
Yeah.
or the Netherlands as a whole to be nominated this year is also really special.
Yeah.
Like you've gotten to see so much of the sex work community there,
Right.
and it's just like so different.
It is.
But it's just like my boundaries are so much higher after going there, and
Yeah.
just like the amount of bullshit I'm willing to deal with,
Yeah.
both professionally and from clients, where I'm just
Right.
like, yeah, I'm not gonna deal with like people being unprofessional
Yeah.
or not treating sex workers with respect.
Yes. And it is night and day. I feel like having made like really dear friends out of like Susie Q and learning more about the SESTA foster stuff
Yeah,
and seeing how behind the US is
for sure.
and sex worker rights compared to the Netherlands or
Belgium,
Belgium, for example. Yeah, when we just went to Belgium for the first time, right when they passed the laws that allowed,
like full health care, full like
yeah,
social security benefits for sex workers.
yeah, and it's so inspiring to be around. And I wanted to ask you though, what are the three categories you're nominated this year for?
So the most important to me is best BDSM movie. Like since I moved here, like working at the armory, BDSM was always like my main thing I wanted to pursue. And I think in a lot of ways, their policies of not really casting trans people kind of
Mhm.
worked for me in the long run
Yeah.
because it made me actually start doing all this on my own. Where
Yeah.
I feel like if I got to shoot a public disgrace scene my first 2 years there,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have pursued it so hard on my own
Hmm.
to produce on my own and really do all that stuff,
Yeah.
which I think that's like the big thing of the last 2 years, even though it's not nominated. We do get to go to Amsterdam and have a premiere for it, which I'm really excited about.
So exciting. And we're going back to Amsterdam within a month of heading
It's
out there.
crazy. I literally had a dream about the screening last night,
Yeah.
and I dreamed that the entire movie going through, my anxiety about I don't want to watch it live simply because I know every single edit I'm just gonna cringe at, and I can't do that for an hour and a half.
Yeah, this is gonna be my first screening of sitting through the BDSM scene that's also
I showed
like,
you a little bit of it, but it's
well,
also like it's such an intense thing that I'm
yeah.
like I understand why it's not like, oh, sit down and watch 90
Well,
minutes
to
of
be
this.
fair, I did watch the first like
The fucking Mystic one.
fucking Mystic like
Yeah.
gangbang
Yeah.
basically. And I've shot many of your scenes. I've
Yeah.
seen many of your scenes on set too. And I think it's still the first one where there's more than 10 people involved
Yeah.
and there's just a lot of stuff going
It's a
on.
lot of stuff, a lot of really intense
Yeah.
stuff. So when I first started showing you and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I understand, you
It's
know?
a lot.
It
Most
is a
people
lot.
don't watch like when you think about the normal porn like what, it's like a minute when you're watching a scene, like 2 minutes at most.
Yeah,
Like
something like
we
that.
sat through like what was it, half an hour? How long was it? It felt like forever.
Of which one?
Fucking Mystic.
Fucking Mystic, I think it's like 15 minutes.
15 minutes. But
Something
in
like
those
that.
15 minutes, it's so intense and there's
Yeah.
a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when we were at the Amsterdam Porn Film Festival last year, screening in a full room, sold out.
Yeah.
People are sitting on the floor. You're
Mm-hmm.
sharing all this space and a very and like obviously it's
Yeah.
Europe, so it's really compact. You're like elbow to elbow with people. There are people sitting on the stairs. It's like full filled out movie
Yeah.
theater, right? And you're watching this really intense scene, and there's this guy after who like there's a Q&A panel with Chelsea and another performer, and fucking Mystic was like the last premiered
Yeah, I think
film.
it was one of the last two.
Yeah, it was the last for the screening where we did the
Yeah.
Q&A. And in the Q&A, there's a guy who's just so flustered and just so shocked at what he saw. He didn't even know how to react, and he raised his hand to ask a question. Well, do you remember what it was
He was
exactly?
like, I really love porn, but wow, that's a lot. And I'm like, it is though, when you watch 2.5 hours of porn, or it was like a 2 hours total screening, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was a lot.
But he was talking about your film in particular,
Yeah.
about how he was so overstimulated, he didn't know what to do. And he was like, wow, this is a lot of stimulation. Like, should I have watched this in private?
I mean, it's true though. Like, I think that's always what drew me to that kind of porn with
Yeah,
performers like Sasha Grey, where it's like you can
yeah,
explore these really extreme things in a relatively safe place.
yeah,
But yeah, it's gonna be interesting seeing the response to that afterwards. I'm really excited to hear the Q&A, but I don't
yeah.
think I can sit through the 90 minutes of that.
It's a 90-minute.
Yeah, because the actual shoot was like
Wow.
3 hours,
Oh
so
my goodness. So it's a full real like
yeah.
blockbuster movie, 90 minutes.
It's
And
so crazy. Well, I think I told you this about before I shot the scene, right? So like Public Disgrace is always like my top number one
yeah,
lesbian porn thing.
yeah.
And like I only ever watched 5 minutes of it because I that's all I needed,
Yeah,
right?
it's very intense.
So the like 2 days before I was like, I should probably watch a full one. And literally my biggest fear in the scene was like, what if I come in the first 5 minutes
Uh,
of the scene? And then everyone there's like the fuck. Luckily that didn't happen, but yeah, with the other one though, like these movies are so intertwined, so I
yeah.
feel like this whole journey really started when we were in Vegas in
Which year?
2022, right after AVN, where we
Wow.
went right back. I was supposed to shoot for Public Disgrace for Kink.com. and I was gonna do some like solo collab with Princess Donna. We had testing issues
That's
through
right.
talent testing. So I remember the moment where we're like, so what do we do? And I'm like, I guess we have a vacation in Vegas, even though we were here like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we're there like 3 times a year.
So we went to like the Lady Gaga thing
Yeah,
and
House
our
of Gaga.
yeah, and our favorite French restaurant.
Yes.
And then we ran into I worked with Princess Donna later on in LA. And then I ran into testing issues again, had to run across the valley to get tested last second
Right.
because I guess false positives happen. And then after that,
Oh yeah, that's the one where Ray Threat gave us a ride to the valley.
yeah, Wraithred did.
Thank you,
It
Ray
was so
Threat. We
appreciated.
love you.
Um, but then like then that's when the other project started essentially.
Hmm.
Also, I had that crazy A24 audition in the middle of this
Right.
too. So it was like
That was
mainstream
fun.
Hollywood stuff.
Intersecting with like indie A24, but like post that movie
Yeah.
where they just
Yeah.
literally blew up.
Was everything everywhere
Yeah,
all at once.
everything
And we're like,
all at
yeah.
once. And I remember practicing your lines with you and
Yeah.
reading it.
So it was like trying to balance putting that project together
Yeah,
and being involved with this A24 thing where it wasn't even like, oh, it's a minor part. It's like,
yeah,
it's a lead. You might have to move to Nevada for like 2 months, which was really crazy. That was like through this whole trip we had up in the air, which ultimately there was a strike in Hollywood, so that production got stopped, so it never went further.
yeah.
But we went to Asia and it just like super organically happened. Like we went to sex shops in Korea. We did like the whole soul experience, and during that whole process I was like, yeah, I should probably shoot a solo here.
Yeah, and I think as your partner, it just happens also organically too,
Mm-hmm.
where we were able to sit bake in these experiences very organically. And it wasn't a minor thing, like I remember when you were in communication with A24
Mm-hmm.
of submitting your, what do they call that?
Audition
Submitting your audition tape,
tapes, yeah.
and just even via communication with
Casting
the
director,
casting
yeah,
director. It was just also positive, and it was
for
also,
sure.
it was very wholesome, the approach. Like you were recommended by like a dear former director.
Yeah,
um and
I won't know if I'm gonna say his name
yeah,
here, but
okay.
yes.
Yeah, and but for me though, it was just so beautiful to see how they had such positive words about
Yeah,
you, and they highlighted your professionalism, your experience, and then meeting with a casting director. I mean, my views of Hollywood are pretty like cutthroat. It's very competitive. It's very much like it could be like throw your friend under the bus
for
to get
sure.
ahead. And that whole experience, maybe it's just an A24 thing and the
Yeah,
people you
right.
know in community, but it just felt so positive. Like it felt like even if you didn't get it, it was still a relationship you built.
For sure. Everyone there was so nice, and I don't.
And I
It
think,
definitely was not what I was
yeah,
expecting, but also I feel like I've had those experiences. Like I've done stuff with Paramount before where they've
yeah,
also been super nice. So I don't know if it's just once you get further into Hollywood, that's when it starts to get more cutthroat, but
yeah.
everyone from A24 was super nice.
I think for me as a partner, the question I want to ask you is reflecting on just a decade of your career. This is your 23rd AVN nomination
Yes.
in the last 10 years. It's been an incredible career. And I feel like I've been so lucky. Maybe it's only because it's been the last 7 years. There have been ups and downs, but it has been just so overwhelmingly positive for you. Like year over year, like every year in our relationship, you've been pushing yourself to the limits. You stretched yourself, you've
Mm-hmm.
expanded, you started moving into new media. You're getting a lot more press, publicity, doing talks at bigger
Mm-hmm.
universities, getting hired to consult and like sex education workshops and panels, to being introduced to like indie mainstream film like
Yeah.
A20. That's a really huge fucking deal.
It is really I mean, just during that whole process where it was like, I'm doing this thing with Princess Donna, that was a dream project,
Yeah.
as well as this, it was
At
definitely
the
like
same
really
time.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess being your partner in like non-porn, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been to how many avians with you now at this
I
point?
think this is maybe your
Four?
fourth,
My fourth one.
fourth or fifth.
Yeah, and I think what's shocking is there's a lot of people who enter the porn world
Mm-hmm.
very hot and very fast, and they burn out fast.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always appreciated from watching you as your partner from a business lens too and perspective, you've always been so methodical about your approach. I know you started out this career of wanting to do grassworks queer indie porn,
Mm-hmm.
and you've just had a very, very successful career that is incredibly positive. We have the best relationships outside of porn with
Yeah.
who we really value as dear friends and
Mm-hmm.
extended family, like Sage and Drake
For
Manowar.
sure. I
And
mean, there's just so many people like all over the world that like that I've become friends with that we can really go anywhere in the world and I'll be like, oh, I
yeah,
have this friend here,
and
you know?
beyond just like, oh, let's shoot a scene, but like, how are they doing? Checking in with
Yeah.
them and having real relationships
Mm-hmm.
outside of that. It's not just a very transactional exchange of content trade, which I see a lot of like other performers do. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always just admired how intentional you've always been with who you worked with, what scene you're shooting, and it's always really felt for the community that you've always wanted to start out with.
Yeah, I think that's like a big part for me, but also like from the start, I was like, I wanted to have influence on like mainstream porn. Like, I want mainstream porn to have
Yeah,
a queer influence. And I think you definitely see that if you look at performers like Karen Noir, even Angela White,
yeah,
like that whole realm of mainstream porn now is so highlighted by like queer porn. And even like what Ricky Greenwood's making, it's so artistic and it's so not what
beautiful.
mainstream porn was, 10 years ago when I first entered.
Yeah,
Which is so crazy because you didn't get to see where porn was at the time,
yeah,
where it was just like so crazy. Like all the trans movies had slurs in them.
yeah,
Like it was still like there's still a lot of that like whole like kind of 90s porn stereotypes.
yeah. And men still heavily driving it
Yeah.
and winning it. And I think what's so beautiful now is especially the last 2 to 3 avians,
Hmm.
we've seen so many female producers,
Yeah, Caden
directors,
Cross is a
Kaden
really
Cross,
yeah.
Susie Q,
Yeah, I mean
JVS.
Susie's it's so amazing to see what happened to Susie Q and just like they were really my porn big sister. They were like the
Yeah.
first person who ever interviewed me about porn. So
Yeah. And I want to ask you, when you think about those last 10 years, now and
yes.
then, and this is your 23rd, you've been nominated for 3 categories.
Yeah.
I guess what is the biggest reflections that you've seen if you had to do a like decade in review of when you first started out like humble, small to where you are now?
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously you know about my Midwestern work ethic that can be a bad thing at
Yeah.
times where I feel like I genuinely just want to put in hard work all the time. And I'm definitely not someone to give up on things really.
Yeah.
And I'm very committed to that. And I think that's like so much of making any kind of art is just continuing to always be making things
Yeah.
and not giving up and not getting caught up in all the industry stuff of it because as
Yeah.
you've seen the entertainment industry is crazy. There's people doing things that maybe aren't fully legal. There's people,
Right.
doing sketchy things, misleading people. Like
Yeah.
there's just
Taking
so much.
advantage of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's just so much of that and I can
Even in your
see
own community,
yeah.
you'd think that this would come from just like the predatory mainstream
Yeah.
stuff, but I think the reality is it does happen
Yeah,
in the
it can
smallest
happen for a
pockets.
feminist porn company, it can happen for an ethical porn company, like all this stuff happens. And I
Yeah,
think instead of getting burnt out by that and saying, I'm fucking done with porn, this is all terrible,
yeah,
I think it's saying, okay, well, I learned this. I need to take these steps
yeah,
and do things the right way that I believe in.
right.
And I think a lot of it's just hard work through all of that. But also, I think, as you saw from before the pandemic, moving to California, I was like, I'm here to work. I'm here to become successful in this.
Yeah,
Where the pandemic really made me have to have balance, where it's like I actually have a real life
yeah,
here and not just have everything pour into work because long term, that's how you get burnt out. That's how
yeah,
you can't do anything. So I think having this experience where I am getting nominated for the most I've gotten since I think I've been like 23 or 24.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, nearly a decade after
Yeah.
that. And it just felt like 2024 was such an incredible standout year for you. I've seen you face tremendous adversity and power through. I've seen you experience the most difficult heartbreaks
Hmm.
while still having to maintain work and balance and everything. But especially 23 and 24, those were, I feel like, the two very impactful and pivotal years
Yeah.
for you. And what stood out for you during that? Can you tell us about a project or scene you worked on that made it so special for you?
I think it was probably the public disgrace scene just because how long it took.
Yeah,
And like as you saw, like there was just so much logistical
right.
things with it where I can't understand why companies don't shoot that anymore
Yeah.
because it's so logistically hard because you're having to
Yeah.
not only throw a whole party and get all the stuff for a
All the
porn scene on
paperwork
top of it,
completed. Yeah.
like
Especially post pandemic. That's not easy to do.
it
Like,
was so
how many people did you have on set? Like, at least 30,
I think
40,
40 something
40?
at least.
Yeah.
It's
That's a
just
feat in its own.
yeah, it's literally like throwing a party on top of that and then you're also
Collecting signatures,
collecting
waivers,
signatures, getting ready
forms.
for the most intense porn scene you've ever
Yeah.
shot, making
3 hours of footage.
yeah, making sure all the videographers are doing the right thing. Like
Right.
there's just so many checks and even like that it was like okay, some of my co-performers are fairly new in this industry who
Yeah.
needed like direction from me in between the
Yeah.
scenes where I'm like you can do this, you got this.
Yeah.
It's just like it was so many roles at once and I'm so glad it worked, but also like you saw there were so many times during the production of it where I'm like, I don't know if this movie's going to come out. I don't know
Right.
what's going to happen because it's just so logistically hard. And then being able to do another movie like
Yeah.
the Chelsea Submits, where it was just like, oh, we're traveling right now. Oh, I know this great person here.
Yeah.
I
Let's
should,
meet up with them for
yeah,
coffee and dinner.
yeah,
What, like right after we shoot, like you're shooting
yeah,
this intense, incredible scene. And we're just like, oh, can we just get like some food together after some
yeah.
fries and steak or something, and then just talk normally?
And like that was such like I think the great experience where
Mhm.
like when I was working with Anna, I think that was during New Year in Amsterdam, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to New Year stuff." When you left for me to shoot, I did not think, "Oh my God, I'm shooting a scene that's gonna get nominated for an AVN right now."
For Lunar New Year, yeah,
I'm
for
like, okay,
Oscar.
we're like, we're shooting in West Amsterdam, like it's chill, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Full circle, and now we're gonna head back to Amsterdam in
Yeah.
like less than 2 weeks, right after AVN. But
Again, yeah.
you talked about some of those hurdles that you had to go through and the challenges you faced in 2024 and 2023. What it could have scarred you so quickly. It could have just
Yes.
been like you could have been like, "Fuck this! I'm out. I'm doing my own
Yeah,
shit
I've done
now.
enough.
I've done enough. I'm tired of getting burnt out. I'm tired of helping people out. I'm done. I'm just gonna be in this for myself." What keeps you motivated to be who you are and still approach the way I've seen you personally approach your work with a lot of sensibility, with a lot of high care for performers and
Yeah.
else, and the way you work is just so different than what I've expected. Someone understandably who've been through what you've been through, have seen what you've seen, all the craziness of the industry
Hmm.
and everything. How do you still stay true to yourself through that? Like when I think about you today versus that first performer entering Bay Area, San
Yeah.
Francisco 10, 13 years
Hmm.
ago, how do you still continue?
I think it's just like I think I genuinely have a really great time collaborating with people and like
Hmm.
making art. And I think that's like bottom line the most like important thing to me out of this.
Yeah.
Where I think a lot of people get caught up and they're like, well, if I win this award or if I'm nominated for this, then it's
Yeah.
success.
And it means something. I'm someone now.
And it's
Yeah.
like you're gonna have ups and downs and stuff. And I think for me, like my goal was getting one AVN nomination ever.
Yeah.
So I'm like
23 Avian
but
nomination
like,
later.
I mean, you know where I'm from. Like you've seen it.
Yeah.
I've talked about a lot on this podcast. Like people where I'm from don't have this stuff really happen to them.
Right.
You know, you don't. have people who are from where you're from,
Yeah,
go to Hollywood for awards and win
right.
stuff or get to go overseas with their art. Like,
Yeah.
it's
That
just very different.
Yeah, and it is so easy to fall into that spiral of just chasing clout or just chasing these very superficial things of like, I need to win in order to be someone,
Hmm.
in order to validate my career. And I've seen you just evolve so much about really honing in on like sports psychology,
Hmm.
being able
That's
to
been a big one.
recognize that just even making it here to where you are is so monumental already that it should be celebrated, regardless if you're winning or not. And I think what you said earlier about how you're doing it for the art and the love art, it's very Andy Warhol of you, of whether you're rich or you're just poor doing this. It's really about making that art that matters most to you.
Yeah, I think it's also just like the perspective, like where I'm from,
Yeah.
where my family is financially as well,
Right.
where it's like, you've been around myself and my grandma and the
Yeah.
rest of my family where they're like, oh, you're the successful one. You're the one who
Yeah.
moved to California. Like,
Right.
I think it's a very different dynamic than I think what some performers might have with their
Mm-hmm.
families back home who might be
Right.
upper middle class or all that stuff.
Right.
Where I think it's just a very different perspective where I'm from, where, there's not this huge, like, aspirational class thing where like you don't see people with
Yeah.
like LV bags, you don't see people
Mm-hmm.
with Chanel.
Yes.
You
Yes.
don't like I remember when I brought my Valentino bag back, like we're like, "Oh yeah, they don't know what that is because there's no Valentino store in Michigan. There's no
Yeah.
Michelin star restaurant." So, it's just like such a different level where bougie there is like, "Oh, you can
Yeah.
buy whatever you want at the mall or something."
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. And what like feedback would you give new performers entering? Because I've seen you coach so many new
Mhm.
people on the scene who just started, who want to get started, and they find you so inspirational. And it's almost like a bubble you have to pop of like what you see in the scenes and the films
Mhm.
and the content versus who you are in reality.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's just keeping as much independence as possible.
Yeah.
Like, produce stuff on a level that you feel comfortable with. It's great if you get gigs for other companies and you can have more opportunities open up. But at the end of the day, companies come and go and studios come and go in porn. As you've seen in the last, 10 years of, well, you've been here for like 8 years of my career, the last like 8 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of those companies you first saw when you went to AVN and XBiz don't
They
exist
don't
anymore.
exist. No. Yeah.
And you just have to like really have a place to go back to where you're creating stuff that matters to you.
Yeah.
Whether that's gonna be your main thing or that's gonna be the thing you do when you're not getting other work. Like I think that's just super, super important.
Yeah.
And yeah, companies come and go in this industry, and I think as a performer, it's just about really keeping your mental well-being and physical well-being. But it's changed so much. Like your first AVN Awards was the one where there was like all the performer suicides right before.
Yeah.
And it was like such a mental health wasn't a thing that was talked about. Like
Right.
if you would bring it up, people would like laugh at you.
Wow.
Or if you like talked about how your porn is your art, people would be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah,
But
like they scoff at you in your face.
but now both those things are so average at
And they can
AVN.
coexist now,
It
whereas before they didn't.
or like talking about porn performers as athletes. That's a way more normalized thing now. Where
Hmm.
before it was still,
Objectification,
yeah, it was like, no,
objectification.
you're not,
Yeah. Like you think you are, but you're not. You
Yeah.
just exist to get me off.
Yeah. Where I think it's really changed in like the last
Yeah.
decade, especially like with stuff like Pineapple that's
Pineapple,
all over the
right.
place and really making that such a top
Yeah.
priority.
That's where I've seen it move so positively in this direction where it's being more integrated. And I love how there's so much more like secondary support for
Mm-hmm.
being able to work in this industry. And I think that's challenged the narrative of like who enters this
Yeah.
industry and the assumptions, like the typical negative tropes and stereotypes of who enters this profession. There's a lot more resourcing support, and it's a lot more, I won't say acceptable in like quote mainstream society. There are more resources now for performers where you don't have to hide about talking these about these things and getting the help and support you need. It's just a necessity.
I think it's also like interesting seeing people come into the industry who are already established actresses.
Or have established professions and
Yeah, I'm
careers.
trying to remember her name. You know, like there's
Jupiter.
no, not Jupiter. She's amazing, but
Jupiter
no.
is amazing.
Um, yeah, every time we hang out with her, just more on rap. Everyone should check out her music.
Yeah, check out her music. I am her 17th streamer on Spotify.
It's so good. But she won one of the Performer of the Year categories recently. She used to be on Boy Meets World.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember her name. It's like ran out of my tongue. She does all the.
Topanga,
No, it's
the
not
lead
Topanga.
actress.
No, it's not
Oh,
Topanga. That's what I thought
not
too.
Corey's girlfriend.
I'm gonna look it up and Madeline Ward. You know she was on Boy Meets World?
No.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was this girl on Boy Meets World.
Oh, wow.
I know. And now she's like one of the top foreign performers. But I think it just proves that like this industry isn't just like what you do when your career is failing, that it can
Right.
be so much more. And
And it can
you,
evolve.
yeah,
So looking ahead towards AVN, we'll be there in just a few days. What would winning be like for you? One or all categories? What would that mean to you? Have you thought about it yet? Or
I mean, I kind of thought about this last year.
yeah.
So 23 is a big number, right?
Yeah, it's a huge number.
So in one way, I'm like, if I won, then that gets erased. Then it's just avian winner, which is obviously great.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where
sure.
I'm like, 23, that's a pretty impressive
Right.
number. I mean, if it's gonna be for anything, I mean, it's probably gonna be for the BDSM one. I would say it's the best chance just because it is like the trans cam girl one.
Yeah.
I'm up against Bailey J and Aubrey Kate,
Oh my
and
gosh. And when was the last time you worked with those two?
I
Or
worked
with Bailey J?
I worked with Bailey J in
Start of your career, right?
yeah, like the first year. It was the first time I was ever in New York. It was
Wow.
crazy
And
experience.
you were at like the one of the most bougiest
We were at the Gramercy
hotels.
Park. She
Yeah.
ran into John Waters in the lobby.
Wow. What a
It
day.
was also crazy because like right after we shot together, like Cosmo pulled up and they did an interview with us, and I'm like, that was my first time ever in New York, so
What
I
a
was
what
just
a
like,
introduction.
it was
What a
crazy.
trip.
Um, yeah, we went to that British Brett Manger place,
Yeah.
and they're like Chelsea Poe grabbed a salad. And it's like it's in a Cosmo article. I'm like, that's so funny.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. But I've never actually worked with Aubrey Cape. We've known each other
For a
for
long time.
literally since we both got in the industry, and I
Yeah.
think they're both like the two greatest trans performers ever.
Yeah.
So, I
What
would,
an honor.
yeah, I've lost so many awards to Aubrey Kate. I'm like, valid though. I can see why. She's great. I think it's really cool and important that you like do have these people where, down the road it will be like, oh wow, I was
Yeah.
like up against them in all these things.
Yeah.
Just like kind of in sports where people can be like, oh, I was up against Michael Jordan or Steph Curry or
Yeah.
whatever. And I think they're both two of the best trans porn performers, and I would put them both in like the top 10 of all time porn
Yeah.
performers.
And I think this is obviously what I love most about you is that this is just who you are. How you speak about people
Mhm.
is not any different off pod, off script, like in person. Like Chelsea, you deeply admire and respect the people in your industry and work
Yeah.
with. And you never make this into a competition of like, I have to beat this person. And that's like normal sports sentiment though,
Yeah.
like, but you're never like that. You're like, they're both incredible performers. They're both highly talented and they've been with you since like you started your career.
Yeah, I mean, J got me a trophy that I have in our studio
Yeah,
room, so
right.
I'm not gonna.
Obviously, but it's still such a different shift because
Yeah,
a lot of people can turn really bitter and like competitive, superficial,
yeah, and be like,
artificial.
I deserve
I
that.
deserve that. I should have won that. Me, I could have, but you're never like that. And what do you think contributed to you the way you act, the way you move? Like what drives you? How did you have to evolve this or were you just always like this?
I think maybe early on I had more of a competitive feeling towards
Hmm.
that stuff, but it was never really like directed towards anyone. Like I never felt like anyone
Yeah.
stole anything from me.
Right.
Also, I feel like, I won awards. It's great. I don't think I like okay, let's say I won every single AVN award, all 23.
Yeah.
That would be such a hassle. We would have too many like everywhere and just be like, we need to get rid of some of these. Um, but
You're
I
funny.
I don't know if it's also being I'm a huge Michigan fan, as you know, and being used to losing things at some level. Also being Dutch, like Dutch people never like win.
It's
Like
a
at
very American thing to be like, me, I want to win. I want to win. I
yeah.
deserve to win and complain. Do you think it's just more of like individualist versus like collectivist
I
experience
think
type
so.
thing?
Also, I think it's just like being realistic. Like you're
Yeah.
probably not going to win everything in your single career. There's very few people like that.
Right.
So for me, like to look back and be like, wow, I was there during a run where Aubrey Kate won like three straight
Yeah.
AVNs. Like, holy shit, that's crazy. I
Right.
can't be like, no, two of those are mine. Like that
Yeah.
just feels so weird to
It's also
me.
just negative energy
Yeah.
too. And that's like just universally like karma. That's just not the energy you want to put out.
Like the Why Not Award mattered to me so much because I went through what I did at the T Awards where I got like harassed on stage, lost
Right.
4 awards in one night, had that whole experience.
Early on in your career
Yeah.
too.
But then like we got to go with our cousin and you got to be there. It was the
Yeah.
first thing back from the pandemic. I did get to win in the same
Yeah.
theater. So it's like I think you need to have the lows to appreciate the highs, and it
Yeah.
has to be both sides of it.
And you have to surround yourself with the right people who are
Hmm.
intentional, who value the same things you do, who care about the same things you do. And I have experienced that this is a lot of a smaller group in the industry and the community, but they definitely do exist. And it's obviously, to me, I always say it's better to have strong, close, fewer friends and just a big group of people that will just leave you the moment it's the most
Yeah.
inconveniencing for
But
them.
I think it's also just like genuinely really fucking hard to make the best movie in the world, and that's what
Yeah,
AVN is. Like you're literally the best in the world at what you do,
right.
and I don't think it's hard. I don't think it's worth it to get bent out of shape to be like, I was only in the top 10.
Yeah,
Like anything else in the world, if
yeah.
you're in the top 10 of something, that's super
I
impressive, or the
agree.
top 50.
It's an incredible
Yeah.
achievement already, and anything beyond that is just a bonus. It's just extra. And we talked about this a lot with Anna and her partner, who
Yeah.
we shot with last year, who we just saw a
Who
month
definitely
ago.
have the more Dutch mindset about it, where they're like, well, we're there. That's
That's
amazing.
already a huge
Yeah,
win. And it's so funny because I just met them and I feel like we just started getting closer
for
to them,
sure.
and it's so helpful to be surrounded by people with the same mentality
Hmm.
so that you're not just overworking yourself, unfortunately to death, to a lot of these burnout places
Hmm.
that a lot of performers get to, and having that right mindset. And that transpires across all industries,
Yeah.
not just the porn industry, but in
Yeah,
everything.
I
And
mean, I'm sure you see this like in music, you definitely see this.
yeah, in
Like,
music and corporate
yeah.
and any industry
I mean,
really.
even these like big people in music have
Mhm.
this mindset. Like, there's a Taylor Swift documentary where the
Not
reputation,
Taylor Swift.
the Reputation album didn't get nominated for an Grammy award, right?
Oh,
And
really?
they were videotaping her during that because that
Yeah.
was part of the documentary, and she's like, "Well, that was a failure. I need to change everything
Oh my
now." And
goodness.
it's just like that's the mindset a lot of people in the entertainment industry
Yeah.
has, where it's like if you're not in the top 10 or you're not number one,
You're irrelevant.
it's a failure.
Yeah, it's
You
a huge
know?
failure.
Yeah.
You fucked up. You need to go back to the drawing board and do something different.
Yeah.
You need to take on that 12 inch.
It's just like so crazy though. Like that is how the entertainment industry works. I think it's just like trying to realize that's not
Yeah.
everything.
Do you see that changing in the adult entertainment industry, in the
No,
porn industry?
definitely not. There's gonna be girls who are gonna be crying over not winning right after the
Yeah,
award show, like there are every year. I think it's good to be passionate about trying to push yourself to be better at what you do, but
right.
also,
But for yourself, not for others, not for,
oh, for myself personally,
oh, I meant like doing that not for others, like doing that for yourself, of pushing yourself, not to do that because you want to XYZ.
yeah, I mean, I feel like especially last year was like the big thing that I always wanted to do in my career,
Yeah.
and like being able to do that was great. And like that was like the big thing where now I feel like it's just continuing kind
Yeah.
of what I learned in this last year, where it's like, oh wow, we can travel. I can do some work when we're traveling
Yeah.
and have it kind of be one and the same. Where I think before it was so much caught up in like
Yeah.
I have to work every single day,
Yeah.
which kind of did happen when we were in Amsterdam last February, but
Yeah.
I would say that's more rare now where I feel like the workload's more manageable. It's not like overworking myself. And also realizing you can make a really good movie and it might not get nominated for
Yeah.
anything. It might not win anything, and that's okay.
Yeah. And win or lose, obviously, this is an incredible achievement. What are the celebration plans after the awards?
So, good thing is I don't have a shoot the next day.
Okay,
So, we could hypothetically just go.
go
Like,
go where?
I
Go
don't
somewhere,
know.
do
We're
something.
me in Vegas, so we don't leave until Monday.
Yeah,
So we could literally do
do
anything
anything.
for 2 days. I mean, after the last award, I don't.
Are you one of those people like, I don't want to think about like acceptance speech or anything like that? If it happens, it happens.
Well, the acceptance speech isn't on stage, so that's good. So
Yeah.
then would be like Instagram Live right
Right,
after.
right, yeah.
I don't know what it would be because, like, if only it was like they had the weed places like Amsterdam,
Yeah,
then I would like one of those comically long joints.
yeah,
Like I think that could be fun.
yeah.
But like there's also a lot of like bougie champagne we could probably get into in Vegas. But like also if this movie wins, it's also Anna's first.
Yeah.
And we're staying at the same hotel, so I
Oh
think
yeah.
that could be really turned up.
It will be fun.
What do you think like we would do? Cause you're in our relationship, you are the spontaneous fun one.
That is true. I
I
don't
am.
know. I
It's so
really don't know.
funny.
I feel like we would just because we're like we would want to be around the people we care most about and celebrate. I feel like there's two sides. We do that or we just go crazy and like I don't know, go on like a nighttime helicopter tour of Vegas or something
I
big. I know we were not helicopter, but I
I
don't
feel like
know.
that's how you end up. I feel like that's like how a tragedy is written. You're like,
Go
I won an award. I'm gonna get a
go big.
helicopter.
I don't know. We go to Vegas all the
We
time.
do.
We go to Vegas 2 to 3 times a year,
That is
every
definitely what my
year
industry
for the
brought to you.
last 8 years. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
of like, what would we do? Nothing out of the ordinary that
I
we wouldn't
mean,
usually do.
I feel like how I would handle it
Yeah.
is I would like to think it would be like when a team wins a championship level
Okay.
or like a gold medal level where
Yeah.
it's just like you go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have any like specific crazy things. Maybe like some crazy bottle of champagne that's
Yeah. We really
from
don't
like
drink a lot at all, though.
I mean, but if you win.
Yeah, I guess all bets are off.
Yeah, I mean, the problem last time with winning was I was drinking another drink beforehand and then switched to champagne. And in my head, I was like, well, I won, so
Yeah.
it's celebratory. I won't get hungover. And then at like 5 in the morning, it was not good.
Yeah. Well, I guess we will have to see for another for another pod to do.
Yeah, we will definitely do a celebratory one if we are.
Yeah.
We also did get invited to a hot tub if we did win. So I think that's definitely a good possibility. But
Too early to tell.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll see in the moment. We'll report live from it. So you've been hosting the Performers Pod since 2021.
yes.
Why did you start it initially? And how has it grown alongside your career these last few years?
Yeah, so as you are very aware, I think most people on this podcast who listen to this podcast are aware,
Yeah.
I got wrangled into that crazy BBC interview.
Yes. Oh God, I forgot. I try to forget about that.
It was so crazy because when I did the interview, I was like, yeah, that was really shitty, but whatever.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
we forgot about it for like a year.
Yeah.
And I thought it just like got published on like the BBC's like channel or something. I was like,
Right.
okay, whatever. And then when it blew up, I felt like it wasn't even really affecting anywhere in the States. Like most people in the States did not know about it.
Yeah.
It was like the middle of like this huge British culture war thing.
Yeah.
And then I got caught in the middle of it where I just can't believe the BBC admitted like they didn't air the interview because it didn't fit their narrative.
Which is not surprising, obviously.
Like,
So sketch. What the
I
fuck,
would assume
BBC?
the BBC. So
Trash.
it definitely made me feel good that both my Dutch part and American part both went to war against the British Empire. Where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I can get on board with that.
And then so many people are doing these YouTube videos of you from that, like the post BBC blow up of like, what? The BBC is twisting things to their own prerogative and narrative?
It's so funny that I can understand why a bunch of British people did that because they're like, oh, this is our taxpayer money. It'd be like if PBS here did it.
Oh, okay.
But it's still very strange to see these like leftist YouTubers be
Yeah.
like,
Chelsea Pope.
why are they censoring Chelsea Pope?
I know. And you're like, I didn't even know this was that
I'm
big
like,
of a deal.
yeah.
I remember when that happened. We just woke up one day and then you were just blowing up on the internet.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like it was like 1 million mentions or something in like 2 days.
God.
It was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, from like a shitty interview like a year ago.
That they didn't publish.
Right.
So
And they still wouldn't release the tapes.
they still didn't. They just emailed me like 2 weeks ago and they're like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Even though you probably went through all the channels of requesting
Oh,
it
of course.
legally.
Yeah, because you have to go through the British government. It's a whole
Right.
thing.
And you
But
have a right to access that. And they were still like, no.
it did definitely fuel my um kind of like women's soccer rivalries now where I'm like
Yeah.
really don't fuck with the England team.
Uh,
So I'm like, okay, whenever the Netherlands plays them, I'm like, hell yeah.
yeah.
But so because of that, I was just like, I just want a place for
Yeah.
performers to talk completely openly, and
Yeah.
that this podcast is also nominated.
Right.
It's just really special because I've had so many people share so many deep things on this podcast, also super light things.
Yeah.
I had our friend Esperanza come on the podcast and she called this other performer a bitch.
Yeah.
So much drama. Her mom came on the podcast after that.
That's right.
It was
A lot.
yeah, but I got to just talk to so many different people and like having Stoya on and having that experience.
Huge win.
Having Nika Noel on was so great to really get a lot of closure on stuff. So I think it's been a really special experience to have this podcast. I'm really glad it's being recognized right now. And yeah.
And what I've always viewed your pod was being able to hear and share the real lives and real stories of these incredible performers.
Mhm.
And it's not just about how do you best suck dick or give a blowjob or some superficial
With the mouth.
dumb, like typical like porn
Yeah, what's your favorite
artist.
position,
Yeah,
baby?
yeah. It's just so gross, and I've always loved hearing after every pod interview you do that I guess is more behind the scenes, but you get to share with me like all the new things you learn about
For
people's
sure.
lives and stories beyond just what's your favorite position? What do you XYZ of this? And you're hearing their like actual truth and honesty. And I love that because I feel like that's so missing from like humanizing these actresses
For
and
sure.
artists beyond just what you see in a 5 10 15 minute clip, and you make all these assumptions about people. And I think that's what takes it deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that is missing from porn because it's like with sports, like just the game on, whatever. But
Right.
when you know about the backstories and you hear about
Yeah.
people's narratives and you hear about people overcoming and using this as their medium,
Yeah.
like that's when I think you actually start to humanize people and really like start to have a deeper understanding for the medium where it's not just, oh, this person's good at fucking. That's great, they're good at fucking, but did you know that they had to have a hip replacement and they thought their career was over and then they came back from that? Like people like Sin's story or Jesse Lee's story about
Yes.
coming back from all those accidents. I think
Right.
that's as heroic as anything you hear during the Olympics where someone talks about someone, coming back from a horrific
Yeah.
injury or medical issue.
Yeah. Well said. And you have a we both have a very busy next 3 weeks.
Yeah, we really do.
Super busy. We'll be traveling so much. We just got back, not even not even a month ago.
Not even a month ago.
For being in like the EU for like nearly 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And here we are going back to Avian, then back to the Netherlands.
I mean, it's been truly nonstop since like October. Like we've literally traveled so much, and
Yeah.
I'm so excited to get to experience another AVN Awards with you.
Yeah.
We get to see Jason Derulo.
Jason Derulo. Yeah.
And yeah, it should be a really great experience, and I'm so excited that we get to bring another new performer with that
Yeah.
you're now the AVN veteran now welcoming new
Yeah.
performers in is so funny too.
Right. Right. And I feel like I just had to take my opportunity here because I get to interview you, who is so used to interviewing everyone
Yes.
else. When we first met in San Francisco, I had no idea about any of this
Yes.
life or industry, what you did, who you were.
You knew did porn, but you didn't know what
But
it meant.
yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like you just make some content. But what I quickly realized was that I saw the magnitude of your impact. And as I've gotten to know you and the industry more over the years, I got to see and witness firsthand your pivotal career moments. And it felt like it just kept growing year over year. And what's been the most defining and impressive for me as your partner to get to see is how you approach your work with so much humility and so much humbleness, if anything, too much of it. And you get to share this joy and energy with others and impact them in the most positive way. And it's just been nothing short of obviously so awe inspiring across industries. It's really rare to find someone like you in the industry. And year after year, you continue to grow, not just as a performer, but as a businesswoman, as a
Hmm.
mentor, and most importantly, someone who really lifts other people up with you. You're someone who takes people along with you for the
Hmm.
ride. It doesn't push people out the door
Yeah, I'm like,
or
I don't
out
want
the
to go up
bus.
alone.
Yeah,
want a team.
and what I've seen over the last 8 years is how brutal this industry can be of
Yeah.
jealousy, of shallow opportunism, of predatory behavior. And yet you still move through it with so much grace and just so much resilience and such an unwavering commitment to your art, to your craft. And you've built so much community with you. You've created the space for others. You've really changed the scene step by step for the better. I mean, I remember one of the first things you told me was at one of the award shows you're at, you really advocated for not using trans slurs in
Yeah.
porn at a time that was still full on trans slurs.
Yes, everywhere. It was
And
at the Tranny Awards.
yeah, and you've put yourself on that line. And 5 years later, seeing you rightfully recognized for it, accredited for your, I think, really early on trailblazing work around that. Couldn't appreciate that then,
Mhm.
obviously, and now they are. And you are just such an incredible pioneer, an artist, and
Oh.
obviously, most importantly, one of the most extraordinary human beings I've ever met. And I'm so thankful that I get to be part of this journey with you. And I'm so thankful that you've shown me a world in your industry that is so passionate and full of compassion, authenticity, and integrity. I mean, I think a lot of people think of these things as like squishy mission values shit, but I
Yeah.
really feel like you live and breathe it. And you've just cheers to you for everything you've
Oh.
accomplished, everything you have yet to achieve. And I know it's just a skyrocket from here. And for me, when I think about your career in 30 years,
Hmm.
I'm going to reflect back on all the people that you've touched along the way and have literally touched, but also emotionally and
Yeah.
mentally touched and supported. And I love you so much. I couldn't be more
Oh.
prouder of you than I am now. And I know this is going to grow year over year. And what a hell of a career that you've had.
Oh, thank you so much, babe. This
Yeah.
is so sweet.
You're a legend. You've built an incredible career, but also just had such a ripple effect that will just last beyond what you've done. And I hope you know that you are making the industry such a better place, along with the people you deeply care about in the industry who's trying to do the exact same thing too. And yeah, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. I can't
Aw.
wait to celebrate. Win or lose, regardless of that, you've already won everything to
Regardless
me,
of that, we have
regardless of
Sunday
that.
off,
Yeah.
so
You've earned it and then some more. So I can't wait to go to the award shows with you as your arm candy. And I can't wait to just continue to support you as my partner
Oh,
in your work that you
that's
do.
so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the perfect way to send it off for this is gonna be the last podcast before EVN.
Wow.
So EVN's gonna be tomorrow for all of you listening, and I hope you watch it online.
Yes.
Hopefully there's some big historic moments. Hopefully there's not too much drama.
Yes.
And hopefully there's some people wearing some crazy outfits that go viral.
Yes, I think I already know some that are.
Yeah, Susie
And Michael.
yeah, they definitely will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, everyone, and bye.
Bye.